Alright all, and welcome back to a new video and the Cheltenham Festival Day 1 official preview for 2021. It has been a long time coming and I'm glad to finally get this to you guys. I know for people that have been long-term subscribers you'll be expecting this. I will tell you if you're new here what the sort of thing I do leading up to the Cheltenham Festival. I tend to do a day 1 to 4 preview on their own with mostly the good graded actions or the grade 1s and maybe grade 2s. And then I will do a handicap video in a couple of weeks' time when the weights are announced with all the handicaps in that. And then closer to the time, around the week of the festival, I will do another video of all 4 days with my final selections. So if you've been watching the videos throughout the year, you'll have seen that I've put up AntePost bets. I've done a few AntePost update videos, but now I've come to the conclusion. I know we're on a Monday here. All Mankind's just running the Kingmaker there. There's a French mare running in the Mare's Hurdle. There's obviously going to be 1 or 2 horses running at Newbury on the weekend, but the majority of festival clues are out there at this stage. And to be honest, especially with the Grade 1 races, you have a rough idea where horses are going to go. I do usually tend to put it up 4 or 5 weeks in advance. So it is a fair bit in advance. I do understand that, but at the same time, I want to get it. I'm just buzzing to start doing these previews, really. As I said before, if you're new around here, because I know there will be always a couple of new people watching for the Cheltenham Festival. Hope you enjoyed the content, and if you are new around here, do subscribe to the channel if you do enjoy the video. This is the Day 1 preview, the Tuesday card, and I'll be covering the Supreme Novices Hurdle, the Arkle Novices Chase, the Champion Hurdle, the Mare's Hurdle, and the National Hunt Chase in today's video. So it's 5 races, and it'll be pretty much like that throughout the full day. So I'll be doing this one here on the Monday. Hopefully that will be out sometime this evening. Then the Wednesday card maybe on Friday this week, then another Monday, another Friday, something like that, before the handicap video in a couple of weeks' time. So I hope you guys understand that. It's a fairly simple process, and hopefully between all of us we can back a couple of winners. But this is also this is a preview, and I do know people will come and watch these videos expecting to find winners, and I for one hope to provide a couple of winners. That's the reason we're all in the game, to try and make a couple of bob here and there. But just to make it quite clear, because I do know it can get crossed, I'm not a tipster. I'm not a paid person in any respect. There are people out there you can pay for services. You can pay to be on the Racing Post Premium service and listen to Paul Keeley and Tom Segal, guys that are paid to do it. I'm more of a previewer with selections, and that's where I suppose I don't want the lines to be crossed between kind of the idea of me being, you know, this professional tipster or anything like that. I'm clearly quite not. I do make a bit of bob. I do track all my bets. I do put selections up on Twitter, put it on YouTube on a weekly basis. I'd like to hope that the guys that are regular subscribers could vouch for the fact that I do put up my fair share of winners. I do put up a fair share of losers as well. So it's just one of those. Hopefully we're all in it to make a few bob at Cheltenham. So hopefully that is the case. Anyway, that's enough waffling. We'll get on to the Supreme Novices Hurdle, which sees the favourite appreciated in here at 7 to 4, 15 to 8 with one firm as well. For the Supreme Novices Hurdle, trained by Willie Mullins, owned by the Masterson family, and more than likely going to be ridden by Paul Townend. I see an awful lot of talk about appreciated in the recent weeks, because people, I think, are making it out that he may be quite short for the Supreme Novices. And I understand where people are coming from, but you do have to bear in mind that probably 2 of the more exciting 2-mile novices this year, Fernie Hollow and Dusart, were both ruled out of this race early on in the season. Both of them were actually culprits within a couple of weeks of each other in December of being ruled out for the season, which has left, I believe, this 2-mile novice hurdle division on its knees. I don't think it's a particularly strong renewal of the Supreme. I'd very much think that there's been years gone by. Like Willie Mullins himself has had much flashier horses running a Supreme than appreciated. The likes of Duvan, Vautour, Champagne Fever would be a little bit more like, I suppose, the ilk appreciated is in, because overall you can't get away from the fact that appreciated more than likely would be a better horse over further. But he's been placed well, and he's been placed to a degree that the 2-mile division has kind of opened itself up for Willie Mullins and connections, and they've just grasped it with two hands. They've taken the Ballymore, they've looked at the Ballymore. You see Gallard de Menil in there for the same stable, Brave Man's Game for Paul Nicholls, Bob Ollinger for Henry de Bromhead, all stronger horses than what Appreciated's going to have to finish, reckon up against in a Supreme. So I think that's obviously the reason they're going down there, and that's where I think he's a very robust favourite. Look at his form this year, even scratching last year as a bumper horse, where he was an exceptionally good bumper horse, finished second in the champion bumper behind Fernie Hollow, no mean feat in that. I thought he travelled into the race like a really good horse at that. And you look at his hurdling form this year, he won a Cork Maiden Hurdle beating Master McShee, he's now rated 143 over hurdles. He won a Grade 1 at Christmas time at Leopardstown, beating Irascible by 9 lengths. Kescon Risk back in 3rd, Ballyadam 4th, and the Devil's Coachman 5th. The form of that looking pretty strong. And then won at the Dublin Racing Festival, winning the Chanel Farm and Novices Hurdle, beating Ballyadam by 3.5 lengths. Irascible was back in 5th, Hookup was in 4th, and the third horse, actually the name escapes me of the third horse, but the form of it is pretty solid. He's held Ballyadam twice now in his last 2 runs, and yet people will tell you that Ballyadam may be able to reverse that form in the Supreme Novices. I don't disagree. I think Ballyadam has an each-way chance in the Supreme. Before I get onto it, I just don't see the angle behind him reversing form. Like, I see him potentially running a very nice race, especially if it turned out to be a bit better ground on the Tuesday, which sometimes it does. Now, the last 3 years it hasn't, but before that, the previous 3 years had turned up good to soft, which I'd say would see him to best effect. But I just don't see him reversing this form at all. I thought he was well held. Obviously, he ran below par at Christmas time, Ballyadam, behind Appreciated when well beaten in 4th, and then Appreciated beat him again convincingly at the Dublin Racing Festival. And I thought, even though Ballyadam made a good move from 2 out to the last at Leopardstown, he had more than enough time, and if he was good enough, he'd have gone past Appreciated, but he wasn't. Then he fluffed his lines at the last, which brings me to the point of his jumping, which is genuinely fairly horrible for a 2-mile novice. I just don't think he jumps fluently enough. He won the Royal Bond earlier in the season at Fairyhouse, the race that Envoy won the previous year. He made a litter of mistakes in that race and just got through it on class. And you look at the form of that race with Caskmate and Ngolo right up his tail, and that isn't very good form. His win at Down Royal, beating Colonel Muster by 12 lengths, is grand form. He's a hardy bloke, was back in 3rd. He's won a couple of races since for Noel Meade. So his form's grand, but at the same time, he's been beaten by the favourite convincingly twice. He is 9-1 in the betting. I see the each-way angle behind it, but I don't see him reversing form unless something drastically wrong happens to the favourite. The leading contender over in England seems to be Metier for Harry Fry, who won the Tolworth Hurdle, beating Shake 'em Up Harry by 12 lengths. I think the form of that race is open to an awful lot of question. I think it was one of the weaker Grade 1s we'll see this year. But he's a nice horse. He's 3 from 3 over hurdles and has done so impressively in his 3 starts. That being said, he does need to step up. This rearranged Betfair hurdle has meant he won't get the prep run that I think they intended to put in. I think they intended to run the Betfair hurdle, hopefully win that on the way to the Supreme. He's now missed that, and they're going to go to Cheltenham fresh, which shouldn't be too much of an inconvenience, but at the same time, I wouldn't be taking him really at the prices. I think he's quite short for what he is, given the form isn't exactly robust. Shake 'em Up Harry was tailed off in the Ballymore last year. A second season novice, couldn't even win a race last year over hurdles. I'm not sure whether that form is particularly great, even with Do Your Job disappointing him behind that day. There was a couple of horses on their first start over hurdles in that race, so I'm not sure the Tolworth is up to a whole pile, and I'd be readily taking on Metier, I must confess. A couple other, just to mention at each way prices, would be Blue Lord and My Drogo, both in here at around 20-1. I think Blue Lord's a very interesting horse for Willie Mullins even, owned by Isaac Swade and Simon Munir. He won his maiden hurdle quite snugly, beating Julie Stowaway and Mags Mullins, who's a nice enough horse, although would have needed more of a trip than the 2 miles on offer that day. Then went and finished a very credible second to Bob Ollinger in the Lawless and Ace Novices Hurdle, and went far too keen over 2.5 miles and finished third. He finished third in that race behind Appreciated and Ballyadam at the Dublin Racing Festival. Can't believe that slipped out of my mind. Under Brian Cooper. He was given an awful lot to do that day and made slightly good late headway. I think he could be better than that performance. I think he could upgrade that performance. And I personally think there's people out there saying that Ballyadam is the value in the race in comparison to Appreciated. I would be more on the case that Blue Lord is the value each way in the race in comparison to Ballyadam being double the price. Blue Lord in at 20-1 to Ballyadam's 9-1. I think he could get an awful lot closer under a more positive ride, and it wouldn't surprise me to see him run well. My Drogo for the Skeltons is a lovely horse who's also won a couple of times over hurdles this year. He won at Newbury when beating Flinter Sacre, and at the time everyone was like, oh geez, that's an extremely exciting performance. Flinter Sacre, unfortunately, has been a bit of a bust for Nicky Henderson this year. He just hasn't learned to settle at all and has been majorly disappointing in his 2 runs. That being said, My Drogo went on to Ascot to win a lovely Grade 2, the Kennel Gate Novice Hurdle the week before Christmas time, beating Clandinabo Lad and Soaring Glory. And Soaring Glory would have a massive chance in this rearranged Betfair Hurdle on the weekend, I believe. Clandinabo Lad didn't do much for the form at Haydock last time out, but that was too bad to be true, I believe. And My Drogo boasts solid enough form claims. That being said, I do think he'll find a couple too good, and it wouldn't be a proposition for me at 20-1, even though that is a big price. I'm very sorry that it's going to come down to this really when I'm making my selection for the race, but I am going to be siding with the favourite here in Appreciated at 7-4. I just think you're trying to kind of unearth cases for an awful lot of others in the market, and I do believe it is more easy than people are making out for. I think people are making the Supreme out to be this very complex puzzle. And I think Appreciated is just such a solid horse. There's no hope, I don't think, of him being out of the first 2 or 3. Now, I know he's 7-4, no each way price. I completely understand that, so that's maybe a stupid thing to say. But at the same stage, you're going to get a run for your money, I believe, a good run for your money at that. It's going to be fairly point and shoot. He'll be handy enough. And I think I'm envisaging a Champagne Fever, Vautour, a Classical Dream sort of situation for Willie Mullins. A horse handy, perhaps needs further in time, as I say, travelling away, jumping quite well and quickening, going towards the last and staying up that hill pretty resolutely, which I think might be a little bit against some of the other horses, as the likes of Ballyadam can sometimes be a little bit soft in the finish. I wouldn't be taking him, personally speaking. I think Appreciated's the solid one in this, and he's the only selection I'm going to put up for the race at this moment in time. One, though, that I am monitoring quite closely is Blue Lord for Willie Mullins also. He'll be the 2nd or 3rd string for the yard. He'll be the 2nd string for the yard if he does run. He's 20-1. I'm going to be waiting for the final selections to see whether he for sure runs in the Supreme. As a result, I may miss the price of 20-1, but I don't know whether he's going to run there, and therefore I'm going to take my chances just with Appreciated at 7-4. Moving on to the Arkle Novices Chase, and this looks one of the more fascinating races of the festival, and hopefully it just delivers on that promise. How many times in the last couple of years have we gone into a race saying this is the most fascinating clash of the week? We had the Champion Hurdle a couple of years ago with Bouverdare, Apples, Jade and Lorena. We had the Champion Chase last year with Defi de Soy, Altion, Chacun Boursois. And the things just all fell apart, and you just really, really hope that won't happen this year. Shishkin's your favourite at just a shade of odds on. I think he's well entitled to be favoured. He was the Supreme Novices Hurdle winner last year, beating Abacadabras when an awful lot went against him, and he's been pretty perfect over fences, winning 3 from 3, 2 at Kempton, and then he won the Lightning Novices Chase at Doncaster, showing that he could jump quite well going left-handed as well. The form of that race isn't up to a whole pile. It's a little bit similar to Envoilin. This horse hasn't ended up beating that much. That being said, he's been in different situations in his races, and he's always encountered a horse that's going to go off quite quick. He encountered Gumball over Christmas, who goes off very quickly, and then even Eldorado Allen set a fair enough gallop out in front at Doncaster, which has given him a lead into races and also made the horse jump at pace. I know people want to make maybe a few kind of cribby comments that he made a mistake or two early on at Doncaster. I think you're, kind of clutching clutching at straws really with that. I thought he was fairly foot perfect, and he jumped superbly when it mattered. He's a little bit similar to Altior, and in terms of getting Shishkin beat, I do believe you're going to have to try, whether it is a Energumene, All Mankind, whoever it is, if they're going to try and beat Shishkin, you're going to need mistakes out of him early, and therefore put him on the back foot early. I believe if Shishkin's within a couple of lengths at the top of the hill, or travelling well into the straight, I just don't see any horse being able to repel his finishing kick. The finishing kick he had in the Supreme from the turn in, right up the straight. Even in some of his other races this year at Kempton, he's been very hard at the line. And I think it's going to take a very fair horse to repel him if he's within touching distance at those key junctures of the race. Energumene is second in the market here at around 5-2. And you could certainly make a case that this horse should be at least a half point shorter. I think he should be 2-1. I think he's a lovely horse. I've obviously been on different videos over the year, and I was actually quite critical of one of my colleagues at the Champ.ie, Barry Doyle, who put this horse up back in March at 40-1 for the Arkle. And I was thinking, Barry had gone off on one, to be honest. But this horse has transformed into a seriously good chaser. It's hard to know. It's not one of these where he's, left his hurdle form behind, because he only ran once over hurdles. We don't know what he could have achieved, maybe if he was a little bit more straight earlier in his career. But this is a super horse, and he's really devoured fields the last twice, winning at Naas in a very trappy kind of conditions. Novice Chase beating Captain Guinness and Black Bow and Farmix, who have all done wonders for the form since. And the Dublin Racing Festival, when winning the Grade 1, Irish Arkle beating Franco de Port and Black Bow. Captain Guinness departing at 2 out in that race. I think he'd have been in the frame that day as well. He won his beginners at Gorham Park over 2.5 miles. And the one thing that's just maybe slightly at the back of your head with Energumene is, again, a little bit like Appreciated in the first, is his best form going to be over further in time? Potentially so. And I do think he'd need proper soft ground on the Tuesday of the festival to be seen to best effect, especially over 2 miles. That being said, he's a super jumper, and he travels out in front like a really nice horse. He gains lengths at fences, and he puts other horses, into submission, really. An awful lot of mistakes were in behind that day at the Dublin Racing Festival in the Irish Arkle. Franco de Port made a serious mistake early. As I said, Captain Guinness fell at 2 out when Energumene slightly just stepped on the gas. Paul Townend just lengthened him into that fence, and Captain Guinness couldn't go with him. I think he's got a very good chance in this race. As I say, I do believe there may be even a small bit of juice in his price at 5-2. That being said, I just think between the two of them, almost just at this time, and it's going to come closer to the time I'm going to have to make a decision between the two of them, I don't think either are almost betting propositions at the current prices, because I don't think the prices are going to move too much. As a result, I'm going to leave the two of them be and look down further in the market to see whether there may be just a little bit of a boil over and something at a bigger price, at least to reach the frame. And you never know, just in case you get one of these shambolic situations like the past couple of years where the race of the festival falls apart completely and goes to somebody you're not expecting. All Mankind, as I said earlier in the video, has just won the Kingmaker. I was just watching it around 10 minutes before recording this video. We're at around 3:30 on the Monday. I wasn't impressed at all, I must say, in the Kingmaker. I thought he made a litany of mistakes around the place. I know he's quick over his fences, but he's also just mad at his fences, and he's likely to take a big liberty at one. And to be honest, if he gave a Cheltenham fence as much of a clout as he gave 3 or 4 of those Warwick fences, he wouldn't stay on his feet going round, I don't think. He's very key to the race, though, because he's a key kind of figure of shaping the race. And Energumene ride, put the ride Paul Townend gives Energumene will be very interesting, given what All Mankind brings to the table. If Energumene tries to go off quicker than All Mankind, he'll end up going too quick and won't be able to see it out. So he's going to have to take a lead, and he's made in all of his starts under rules, the 1 over hurdles and the 3 over fences so far. So as much as we don't know that he won't be better even for elite, he perhaps might be. He's not maybe quite as tactically versatile to the naked eye from what we've seen so far as Shishkin might be. All Mankind will be the front runner in this race. As I say, he's a mad horse. He takes a few liberties with his fences, and I'd just be surprised if he was able to keep up the gallop. And this is nothing against All Mankind. If people watched last year, I was mad keen on him in the Triumph Hurdle. I backed him at Chepstow last year when he won the big juvenile hurdle. I backed him in the Triumph Hurdle, and he was flat at Cheltenham, and I don't believe Cheltenham's his track. Oh, that's the plain and simple. I don't think the hill plays to his strengths. I think a flat track suits. I think him in the McGull Novices Chase at Aintree, I couldn't see him getting beat, especially if Shishkin wasn't to turn up to that. I couldn't see him beating a 2-mile novice around Aintree, or the likes of a Sandown, and of course Warwick seems to be his favourite track almost. He won very impressively there as a juvenile hurdler last year as well. He's a 5-year-old going chasing, doesn't get any allowances come the Arkle, and I think he's up against it. I think Franco de Port is a horse that potentially may go up in trip. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Franco de Port ran in the Marsh Novices Chase. Likewise with the likes of Darver Star, who was disappointing in the Irish Arkle. He is better than that, but you couldn't be backing him for an Arkle at this stage. And Black Bow, whether they're going to even go down this route or maybe try him in a Grand Annual, I'm not so sure. Very hard to know what they're trying with Black Bow. It looked at Nace in that race by Nurgamine that they were plotting a mark, and then at Leopardstown he ran on his merits. So very hard to know what to make of him. The one that I'm going to put up at a big each-way price, and you're potentially going to go mad at me considering I've just given out about All Mankind's jumping, and this horse is coming into this race off the back of a fall, but it is Captain Guinness. I just think at 25 to 1, he's too big a price and represents a bit of each-way value in this race at 3 places. Just looking at the Arkle, I think it's going to be one of these races. There'll be 8 or 9 runners come the day. He won't be 25 to 1 come the day. I know this is the target. It'll be the only race, if he runs at the festival, that he will run in. His second Nace behind a Nurgamine finds him with 7 or 8 lengths to find. There's no getting away from that. But that was on soft to heavy ground, and there was a sense of optimism in Rachel Blackmore's voice when interviewed about that race, that they might be able to get a little bit closer to a Nurgamine on better ground. And that's potentially something we're hoping for. We might be hoping for a little bit of better ground come the first day of the festival. So it's hard to know, because obviously you want maybe a little bit softer ground for Appreciated, but you can't win them all. It will be, hopefully it might be just soft ground and therefore cater for everyone. I thought Captain Guinness was running a stormer though in the Irish Arkle. Going back to Captain Guinness, he was very unruly in the parade ring beforehand. He got a bit hot. He was kicking out behind. He was doing everything wrong, really, before the race, and yet was still only a length behind an Nurgamine when taking a bad fall 2 out. He got up fine, perfectly fine, was sprinted away. Rachel Blackmore was unharmed as well. And I just thought there was no chance that he wasn't finishing in the 3 that day. I don't believe. He wouldn't have beaten a Nurgamine. I don't think so. But you're just not sure what's going to happen, as I say, with these 2 market rivals. Maybe there might be a bit of a pace collapse. And maybe it might lead to a horse like Captain Guinness, who's going to line up maybe in 3rd or 4th place to pick up a few each-way pieces. As I say, I just think he's a bit too big. He was running a super race in the Supreme Novices Hurdle when luckless when being brought down at 2 out last year. I think he would have finished maybe 3rd or 4th that day. I think he would have been in that clump of horses with Chantry House, Asterion Forlange and Allard. I think he would have been in that group. And as a result, you know that he goes relatively well at it. He actually didn't boil over too badly at the festival last year, which is interesting. And obviously there won't be any crowds there this year, I don't believe anyway. There'll be owners there at max. And he might just slip in here under the radar. I know Shishkin and Nurgamine have it probably between them. But in terms of an each-way play, maybe a bit of a value play, I think he's the price rather than backing Shishkin or Nurgamine right now when it's still a month out from the festival. I will end up having to back one of them, I suspect, on the day. Or maybe I might just leave it at Captain Guinness each way. It's going to be a hard one to know. But I think at 25 to 1, he is potentially the value in the race. Moving on to the Champion Hurdle. And I know this video is taking a bit of time, but it's the Cheltenham Festival. We've got to spend a bit of time previewing these races, and hopefully you're enjoying it. And if you are enjoying the longer video, do let me know, because I'll maintain to do longer videos for Cheltenham. And if you don't, if you want them a little bit shorter, also let me know, and then I'll be able to condense in the next couple of days videos. The champion hurdle, Honeysuckle, the mare that I have just solely gotten wrong. And I know a few people get on to me about it. And I love it, to be honest. If you're not prepared to admit you're wrong about a horse, then you're kind of in the wrong game. Like, I know, there's horses that you're going to stick with kind of through and through, but Honeysuckle was a mare I couldn't take to last year, tried to get her beat, couldn't comprehend her beating Benny the Jew last year in the mare's hurdle. She went and did so. I know she maybe got the look of the race going on the inside. Rachel Blackmore gave her a peach of a ride. That being said, if we're being all brutally honest, Benny the Jew still had more than enough time to get by the mare, and she couldn't do so. Honeysuckle then went on to win the Hatton's Grace over 2.5 miles, kind of crawled in to beat Ronald Pump. I wasn't overly enamoured by that performance, and I was readily taking her on at the Dublin Racing Festival in the Irish Champion Hurdle. But she just looked different, and I do believe it was a career best on the weekend for her. She jumped like a 2-miler, she travelled like a 2-miler, and put the race to bed at 2 or 3 out, to be honest. Rachel made a move at the back of the back straight, at the finish of the back straight, which is around 4.5 furlongs from home at Leopardstown, and the race was cooked there and then. She only had to jump the last 2, and it was away and gone. Abacadabras was second, who brings good novice form from last year. Sharjah was third, who loves Leopardstown and is a multiple Grade 1 winner. And Sam Waugh, who's ended up being a bit of a bust, has finished fourth. I think that was extremely strong. She's in here at 5-2, joint favourite with Epatante, another mare. Those two will be running off level weights, all getting £7 off the geldings in this race. And I think Honeysuckle is worth a bet at 5-2, and she'll be a selection I'll be putting up in this video. I think she takes a heap of beating in this race. She's a mare in rich form. She's unbeaten on the track. The only caveat I'd have with Honeysuckle is that I'm going to be backing her, and it's just one of those eggs or eggs moments, a bit like with Apple's that the day I back her, she'll lose her unbeaten streak. But I really hope that's not the case. Kenny Alexander is a very good supporter of the game and a supporter of the mare's programme, and I really hope that he has as good a mare as it looks like they do with Honeysuckle. Rachel Blackmore gets on so well with her, and I really think she takes an awful lot of beating in this race. Epatante is the joint favourite in here at 5-2. Look, she won the champion hurdle head and chest last year, and she surprised a few people in doing so, I believe. It was one of those where the winner was staring straight at you, and nobody really called the bluff. But that being said, she's thrown in the odd poor performance, including in the Christmas hurdle this year when well beaten by Silver Streak. She's much better than that, and I think she'll reverse form with Silver Streak at Cheltenham, no doubt about it. That being said, I think it's more of a leap of faith to be backing her at 5-2 after a bad run than Honeysuckle at 5-2 after a super run. That's the way I'm seeing it. I think Epatante will return to form. I think she'll run a big race, but she's getting no pounds off Honeysuckle, and I think she's got her work cut out. There's a lot of the geldings in here at each way prices, and I suppose, I ended up, one of my AntePost picks this year was Sam Waugh at the start of the season back in October time, 20-1 for the champion hurdle. He's now generally 25-1, so not one of my better AntePost picks. There's been a few good ones, a few bad ones, and he's one of the bad ones, unfortunately. Looked quite good for a while. He won Tipperary, he was down into 7-8-1. Then he came second in the Morgiana. People were, giving him a lot of credit for that run, given how much went wrong, and giving him a lot of, I suppose, excuses that it was going to happen at Leopardstown. The last 2 starts at Leopardstown, there's been no excuses. There's no getting away from that, and he's been genuinely disappointing. I'm not the type of person, I'm going to let my AntePost slips run, and I think he'll still run in the champion hurdle, but he's well up against it. You're hoping upon hope that, a return to Cheltenham might see him improve a stone or a stone and a half. He would absolutely need to for him to even contemplate being in the places, but I'm going to let him fly, and there's no point cashing out bets now. You've got to let these run and hope for the best. Other each-way alternatives in this race, Aspire Tower looks one of the more robust ones, was second in the Triumph Hurdle last year. I'd be a little bit, though, perturbed by the fact that he didn't jump and travelled far too keen in the Triumph last year. He kind of threw his race away from those two kind of things put together and didn't run a great race and was well beaten by Burning Victory. All of them would have been absolutely stuffed by Goshen if he'd stood up. So it's one of those, I can't really be having Aspire Tower based off last year's form. That being said, I think he's been a much different and much improved horse this year. He won the WKD hurdle up at Down Royal, beating Abacadabra Abacadabras and Jason the Militant, which I think is strong form, and was second in the Matheson Hurdle behind Sharjah at Christmas time. Sharjah is a really good horse around Christmas at Leopardstown, and I think you can upgrade Aspire Tar's performance given he was on the pace, on a pretty strong pace at that, all the way, and Sharjah picked up the pieces in that race. That being said, I do believe with Aspire Tar, you're just looking at him going, something's going to pick him up, and he won't have Rachel Blackmore on board. He more than likely will have Rob Corr's retained rider Robbie Parr on board. Now, Robbie Parr is a very capable jockey in his own right, but Aspire Tar has been ridden by Rachel Blackmore, I think, in every single start of his career, so it's going to be a bit of an interesting one to see the difference there. But I think Henry de Bromhead has a much stronger case with Honeysuckle than the 5-year-old. 5-year-olds do have invariably a tricky enough time of it in the Champion Hurdle. Silver Streak and Sharjah won the 2 races at Christmas time, the Christmas Hurdle and the Matheson Hurdle respectively. Silver Streak is a lovely horse. He deserved that day in the sun in the Grade 1. That being said, I don't believe he's up to winning a Champion Hurdle. And I think for all of us, we can probably say whether we like Silver Streak or Sharjah, we'd be disappointed if either of them were to win a Champion Hurdle. I know it doesn't look a vintage renewal, a little bit like last year. It doesn't look like one of the greatest Champion Hurdles we've seen. That being said, you'd prefer one of the 2 mares to win, because one of the 2 mares holds, the mares hold quite a bit of a class about them, I suppose. As for Silver Streak and Sharjah, they're classy horses. They're both Grade 1 winners, obviously, but it'd be disappointing to see either of them win. Whether either of them have a chance of placing, I'd more so be on the side of Sharjah than Silver Streak. I think Silver Streak is vulnerable at Cheltenham. Sharjah's travelled well in the Champion Hurdle last year, ran a stormer under Patrick Mullins. He'll be ridden the same. The likely, decent pace on offer will also suit him. He might have chances of sneaking into the frame, but wouldn't be for me. One that would also be suited by a strong pace is Abacadabras, who's a lovely horse, again a Grade 1 winner in his own right, and ran a pretty respectable race in second behind Honeysuckle last week. I don't think he'll be able to reverse that form. He may be able to get a little bit closer than the 10 lengths at Leopardstown, but I can't see him reversing it, and I think an awful lot would have to fall into his lap for him to come in the money in this race. He has the ability to finish third in a Champion Hurdle. I don't think he's got it in him to win a Champion Hurdle. That being said, I'm just not sure about his resolution at times. He obviously ran through a rail in a bumper at Leopardstown, and that's always rested with me, because it's always horses that have a few notions and a few idiosyncrasies that would even contemplate doing that. So he's a little bit one of those horses for me. I've never quite taken to him as a result, and I think he is up against it. Obviously, you've the likes of Goshen in there. You've no idea. You couldn't be backing Goshen at the moment based off what we've seen in his last couple of starts on the flat and that run in the International Hurdle. I'd love him to run well, but I don't see it happening, personally speaking. That being said, my 2 selections as a result for the Champion Hurdle, I'm letting that Samwa bet go through, as of course it was put up back in October. It might have actually been September time. And Honeysuckle, a new bet for the Champion Hurdle at 5-2. I think that still represents decent value. The Mares Hurdle, over 2.5 miles, another good race. I couldn't contemplate Benny getting beaten in it last year, as I said earlier, and she did. So not a race that is great in the memory for me. And a real shame to see Benny Deju take such a walk in the exchanges the last couple of days. I really hope nothing serious is wrong, but it'd have to put you off backing her at the moment for a Mares Hurdle. This leads, with her potentially gone, and Honeysuckle going to run in the Champion Hurdle, it looks like Concertista's race to lose. And she's priced accordingly in and around 6-4, 13-8. I know an awful lot of you guys will think she's fairly bomb-proof at that price, especially with the 2 mares potentially not running against her. And I can see the angle behind that. That being said, I'm not sure I'll be backing her right now for the race. Instead, I'd be more so waiting to the day and hopefully potentially backing her in the final selections video, if by then I see that she's running, I see the quality of runners beside her. But I'm trying to find horses at the moment that I think represent value and potentially should be shorter and would be shorter if certain things happen. And I think I've stumbled onto one in here. I looked through the market. As I've said, Honeysuckle not going to run. Benny Deju, you'd have to be very concerned by these drifts on the exchanges. And Roxanne, I think if she does run at Cheltenham, it will be in the stayers hurdle, but it wouldn't surprise me if she doesn't go to Cheltenham at all. Dame de Compagnie is fourth or fifth in there in the betting. She has been chasing this year. She was brought down last time out. Would take a leap of faith to be backing her back over hurdles. El File hasn't been seen this year. Dolcita's been disappointing. That being said, she's probably running currently in the Mares Hurdle at Warwick, where that very promising French mare Paul Saga is running. I'm not sure whether she'll be running in a Mares Hurdle or a Stayers Hurdle. They seem to be tossing and turning between the two. But I've got one in here that I think is massively overpriced in the race. And I do believe this is the target for, and I think the race could cut up and she could be an awful lot shorter on the day. She has an awful lot to find with the favourite Concertista, and as a result, more than likely won't beat her. That being said, she's ran very credibly twice at Cheltenham before in her life, finishing fourth in a Mares Novice Hurdle and second in a Coral Cup last year, and has maintained that form, being very consistent with two solid efforts this year, last time out behind Concertista at Christmas time when finishing third. If you haven't come to the conclusion of what that horse is yet, it is Black Tears for Gordon Elliott at 33 to 1 each way. I think she's too big a price. If you even contemplate taking half those horses I've just said there out of the betting, she's a 10 to 1 shot, I think. She's got good festival form, as I've previously mentioned, running a massive race, which was completely against what she'd shown over in Ireland when fourth in the Mares Novice behind Eglantine de Soy and Concertista, and was second in the Coral Cup last time out to an extremely well handicapped Dame de Compagnie. She was unlucky not to win that day. I think she's gone too far up in the mark, up in the ratings for her to be running in a Coral Cup. She's rated 148 in Ireland, which means she'd be, I'd say, 152, 153 in a Coral Cup. I can't see them running in that when the Mares Hurdle is available, and potentially quite weak in depth. As I say, an awful lot to find with the favourite Concertista, but you're looking at Concertista at 6 to 4 and Black Tears at 33 to 1. There's an awful lot of difference there, and I think she is well worth a punt. The National Hunt Chase, a race, to be honest, out of all of these, it's the trickiest to go about deciphering what horses are going to run. Galvin will more than likely run for Gordon Elliott, and he's been the long-term wise guy's horse for this race. He's 4 to 1. I think it's ridiculously short. He's ran once over 3 miles before when winning a novice chase in October at Cheltenham. He's been since put off for this race, a little bit like they did last year, before running second in the novice handicap behind Imperial Aura. He's got good Cheltenham form, which will stand him in good stead, but no proof that he's going to get the trip, and not even particularly looking like he wants or needs 3 miles 6. I think he's got a bit of tactical speed personally, and in the past couple of years, horses that haven't been proven stayers and potentially are the classy horses in the races haven't delivered on that promise, and a few of them have been turned over at short prices, carefully selected being Case in Point last year. That being said, he does bring probably a solid enough level of form to the table. I just think 4 to 1's a bit short. Looking at the potential challengers, Royal Pagai's in here, and obviously I think he'd be favoured for the race if he was to run in it. I don't think he will run in it. The more and more I think about it, the more and more they should run in the Gold Cup. I don't think he'll win a Gold Cup. I don't think he could actually be in the first 3 or 4 in a Gold Cup. But that doesn't mean he shouldn't run in it, because you look at the Gold Cup, how windy the market is, horses being taken out. Delta Work confirmed to be injured after having a fracture at Leopardstown, so he's not running in it. Horses falling by the wayside. Champ running over 2 miles at the weekend before running in the Gold Cup. It just doesn't look ideal for a lot of these. And I think he should have a crack. He'd have an each-way chance in the race behind Album Photo. And you're slightly wasting your time running him in a National Hunt Chase when the option is there. Eclat de Rire and Latest Exhibition are quite high quite low in the betting, and both of them would have a massive chance if they came. But I'm going to straight up think that I don't think either of them will run. I think Latest Exhibition, if he's going to run at Cheltenham, which is a big if, he'll only be running in the RSA, and the exact same comments apply for me for Eclat de Rire. If he's running at Cheltenham, he'll run in the RSA, or whatever it is now, the Brown Advisory Novices Chase, I should say. A clad rear, Henry de Bromhead hasn't had many runners in the National Hunt Chase in the past couple of years. It would surprise me if he ran in the race. And latest exhibition, I think Paul Nolan and team have that idea of Discorama just in that race a couple of years ago. And Discorama took an awful long time to get over that run in the National Hunt Chase, and they won't want that happening with latest exhibition. And to be honest, I think he's got a bit too much class. Then there's a Gordon Elliott. There's 3 other Gordon Elliott horses that have a chance in this. Galvin being the market leader. I think there's 3 at bigger prices that all have chances. And I'm going to advise one non-runner no bet, because I'm not sure whether he'll go and run in the race. You've got a Scaria 10 would have a chance in the race if he ran. Cocoa Beach would have a chance. He looks like he might run. I think he's got a chance. But the one I'm going to put up at 12 to 1 non-runner no bet each way is Pencilfulloflead. I think this horse is crying out for an extreme test of stamina, owned by Rob Corr. I'm not sure what the story is going to be with amateur jockeys, whether it will be Robbie Power end up riding them because amateur jockeys won't be able to ride, or what it will end up being. I think he's got a very good chance, though, if he was to run in this race. He brings very good form to the table this year. He beat Cocoa Beach in a beginners at Galway. He then beat latest exhibition in the Florida Pearl on over 2 miles 6 on heavy ground. Then second behind Colreevy in the Grade 1 at Limerick over Christmas, over 2.5 miles on heavy ground, before a little bit disappointing in third behind a clad rear in the Grade 3 Novices Chase at Naas the other week. That being said, that performance will have qualified him for a National Hunt Chase, and I think he's got a massive chance if he was to run in it. A little bit unlike Galvin, this horse just looks like a stout stayer, and I do see his best form potentially coming over extreme trips such as these. He brings a good blend of being a galloper that jumps well, but also a little bit of class to the table. And I do believe if he was to run in the race, he won't be 12 to 1. I'm taking non-runner no bet. I know there's 16 to 1 available out there if you want to take him just on the nose or each way, just hoping he gets there. I'd leave that up to yourselves, what would interest you more, but I don't think there's enough of a gap between the 2 prices for me not to take the non-runner no bet, just considering Gordon Elliott has 4 potentially good chances in the race entered, and it would surprise me if he wasted all 4 bullets on the same race. And there is a little chance this Pencilfulloflead could end up in an RSA as well, or potentially not even go to Cheltenham. So that's why I'm adding that stipulation. The majority of those are at actually non-runner no bet prices. Honeysuckle is, Appreciated is, Black Tears is, and Captain Guinness is. But Pencilfulloflead, I'm more emphasising it because he might not run in the race. Anyway, that concludes the Day 1 preview, and I really hope you have stuck around, and I really hope you've enjoyed the video as well. If you do have any thoughts on the Day 1 card, whether you think that Honeysuckle's potentially the one for the Champion Hurdle, or Epatant's the one to take it, or whatever it is about those 5 races, do let me know in the comments down below. If you did enjoy the video, do give it a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here and you haven't done so already and you do enjoy it. There will be these types of videos for Day 2, Day 3, Day 4, then a handicap video, and then final selections closer to the time. I'll also try to throw in a Newbury preview for this weekend's action along the way as well. But hope you did enjoy it. Hope you're really getting excited for the Cheltenham Festival at this stage. And until next time, where we'll be covering the big races on Day 2. And just before some English person says it in the comments, there will be English horses tipped on the Day 2 preview. I know, looking at it now, all the horses I've put up there are Irish. I do think the Irish have a massive stranglehold on a lot of the races this year. That being said, if you were to pin me down, I think Shishkin would beat Energumene and Captain Guinness. But hopefully in that order, and Captain Guinness can collect at 20 to 25 to 1 each way. Let me know down below. And until next time out, stay safe, stay well, land a few bets, and I'll see you guys then. Cheers.